You are about to get written up. That is one phrase that I fear the most on my very first year of my whole work life as an adult. Now, what is it like out here in China? Welcome back to Soul Quest. Let's talk about some of the serious business when it comes to the whole work culture in China. Now, on our first agenda, the whole serious business is company outing and also company dinner. Typically, these are out of your work hours and they kind of frame it as like a team building activities. Now, they would probably say it is not mandatory for you to join these events, but technically it is. You are being pushed all to hell to join these things. And they will threaten you with the whole KPI kind of deal, saying that, oh, if you don't join this, it will affect your KPI drastically. Technically, it is true because in the KPI, it does talk about the whole teamwork, team building kind of deal. But it's not much of a big deal. It is just a couple of points off on the whole KPI in a whole. It does help out with your career if you do join these kind of company outing and meeting. Now, what typically happens during this dinner, the manager or the boss will take you out for dinner and you'll have dinner together as a group or either a company, and they would often talk about what to improve on the company or talk about conversation outside the company. If you are a first year, definitely take it. Not only is it a great way for you to actually connect with new people, but also a way for you to experience some of the Chinese dish. Now, next one, I want to really focus on the company outing. This does have the same gravitas to the whole company dinner, but a little bit more, just because you're gonna be meeting with a lot of officials and also pictures, which company really loves. Usually for company outings, it's like once or twice a year, but for company dinner, it's like once a month or 2 times per month, depending on how rich the company is. Now, typically for a company meeting, you would go to like an archery cafe or either a pet shop, or maybe if your company have a lot of money, you would go to an outing place where they have a ton of activity for you to do. But if your company are strapped on cash, usually you would just go hiking, which is like tedious, sweaty, or maybe just go to the beach or local park to do some group activity with like the whole rope and catch the ball kind of deal. Now, to piggyback on the whole company dinner, there is this thing called the company lunch. I mean, it's a term that I made up out of my own butt, but usually the management would ask the whole group to like, hey, you want to get lunch together? Typically, the management or the company would pay for it. Maybe 20% of the time, usually you would have to split the money. Now, this one is definitely not mandatory, but it does help out with the relationship with the upper management, which could be beneficial in the future. Now, let's move on to something a bit more serious, and that is overtime. So how often is overtime in these Chinese companies? Typically, they would actually discourage you to do work overtime based off my experience. Of course, you are still welcome to do overtime since you do have a lot of work, especially as a first year. You're just playing catch up in general or either trying to get into the learning curve. But if they see you like around 5 p.m., closing hour, still working, they would encourage you to go home. Now, there are some cases where you do have to work overtime, which is on the weekend. Now, typically, if you do work in an ESL training center, during summer and winter, you are working overtime and they're gonna work you like a horse because this time, there's gonna be a lot of students on their off days and crunching up their education skill. And no, you cannot refuse the overtime. You have to accept the new schedule and it is what it is. Because according to most contract I read, you do have to work 40 hours per week, which they can use however they want. And if you don't comply, there might be some disciplinary action or either they might fire you or some sort like that. And what happens if you deal with the confrontation or either you're about to get fired? So typically what happened is that the confrontation starts and there will be emails being sent around. Now, typically the email would be CC'd to both HR and also the management team. Now, if this issue still can't be resolved between 2 parties along with the HR and the management, you both have a private room and also a third party managing the whole situation. And typically the third party would find a solution or try to mediate the problem. I almost forgot about the most important subject, and that is KPI. Basically, it's a conference between you and the management to see whether you get an increase or stay stagnant in your monthly pay. Now, the things that they're gonna review is your friendliness, your work ethic, your work, and also your performance. If you score 100, you get the full raise. But if you score maybe just a quarter, you get a quarter raise. That's the gist of it technically. And it is a serious business because that involves money. Yeah, that's about it with the whole serious business in workplace. If you have any question or you have an interesting story, please comment down below. I would love to know. And until next time, Soul Quest logging out. Peace.
哎呀，Solo Quest。